Hey everybody, it's Brian from CATSBuzz. Happy Friday! It's so good to have you tuning on into the 4 eras of Grizabella. You're about to journey with me on 4 great interviews I've had this week with incredible actresses that have played the role of Grizabella. They have all donated their time, and it's incredible and an honor to have them participate in this project, so thank you so much in advance. And I want to thank you in advance for donating to COVID-19 emergency relief funds. When you click on the Shows Must Go On YouTube page, you can find all of the great non-for-profits that are taking part in this initiative. And if you can give $1, $5, $10, $100, whatever you're able to, all proceeds go to those affected by the current pandemic. Here we go.
I have a special guest here, Miss Elaine Paige. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I am doing very well, thank you. It's so lovely to see you and to meet you today.
Thank you for having me.
I also really love your shirt. It's just,
Thank you.
It's so springy and
Good
beautiful.
color, isn't it? Blue, my favorite color. And you're in blue too, so.
I am. Blues, sometimes they say it's all about sadness, but I think it's also about just, a beautiful color. So, wow, it is so lovely to have you here. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes. I want to let the viewers know that this is all part of the Shows Must Go On, the initiative from Really Useful. We are raising money for the COVID-19 emergency relief funds worldwide. So this is an honor to not only be helping them out, but also to have Elaine on the channel. So cats this week, right? Oh my goodness. The original Grizabella, what was it like donning that outfit for the first time? Because the layers of makeup, the massive wig, everything, it must have been absolutely amazing to see your transition from human to cat.
It was extraordinary, I must say. Of course, what probably a lot of people don't know is that in the original production here in London, 1981, I was part of the original opening number as a young cat. I'd be interested to see if anybody can recognize me, because I've got a young wig on and a young makeup, and I'm sprightly dancing around the place with all the other young things, and then of course I had to make that transition to Grizabella, the old cat, and so it was a major makeup change, obviously, and wig. And I donned the old Grizabella coat. But luckily there was plenty of time to be able to do that from the first opening number, as it were, into my first entrance. But it was quite interesting because as a young cat, you kind of see yourself to some degree. But then as I sort of aged the makeup, gave myself a beauty spot with reference to the fact that I was glamorous once, and put on the old wig and everything. It kind of, I always, as an actor, find that the costume very much enhances and helps you with the character. And I'd already decided with Trevor Nunn originally that because she was a cat discussing reflecting the song, really, I think is about reflection, and the fact that she is reflecting upon the fact that she's an outcast, she's lonely, she's, worse for wear, really. Her best days are behind her, her glamorous days are of the past, and so the song is really an emotional appeal of loneliness, and I wanted to kind of somehow incorporate all this into the character, and I decided that I was going to play it with a limp. And I said to Trevor Nunn, what do you think about this limp? Do you think it's okay? Do you think I should go for it? Or I don't want people to think I'm thinking I'm Richard III. and, so he said, no, if I think it's a nice touch if you feel that sort of enhances the fact that she's older and a bit battered by life. I think it's a nice thing to do. So these were the kind of things that one kind of, tried to find. And the fact that I came to the production later than everybody else, I didn't really have that long to kind of, research and find out and think about what I wanted to do. But that was a major piece to me that helped me with the characterization.
Absolutely. And then you also got to sing, which I think is one of the most world-renowned and world well-respected pieces from Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, Memories. The first time you heard the song,
no, there was it hadn't been recorded or anything. In fact, it wasn't a song at the time I heard it. It was just a melody. He'd written the melody. I think it was one of those that he's got a bottom drawer, and it had lived in the bottom drawer for a while. And he was waiting for the right show. Anyway, but I heard that song initially on my car radio driving home from a dinner party one night, and I remember distinctly the DJ saying, "I'll play the whole of Andrew Lloyd Webber's tune to his brand new musical Cats after the midnight news." And so I thought, oh my gosh, because it was like a fragment, it was only half the song. And I thought, I've got to tape this because it's just, I don't know, it kind of caught me, it connected with me in some way immediately. And so I got out of the car, rushed to my front door, fiddling around in my pocket for the keys to my house. And as I'm looking down, I see walking towards me this old black cat that was kind of, well, dilapidated and worse for wear, I have to say. And I was trying to usher her across my path because my mother had always said to me that if a black cat crosses your path, it brings you luck. And I had not long left Evita. And so I was waiting for a good part to wing its way to me. And so I trying to get this cat to cross my path to bring me luck, which it did. And then I rushed into the house, put the tape in, taped the song, left the front door open. The cat had followed me in, and it was so dilapidated. I thought, poor thing, I'm going to give it a saucer of milk. And, anyway, the rest is history because it stayed the night and shut the door and all that. I go to bed with this tape, and I played it over and over and over and over again. It just was the most haunting melody to me. And I made a decision that I wasn't part of the Cats company at this time. And I thought, I'm going to ring Andrew tomorrow and say to him, you got to let me record the song. I know I'm nothing to do with the show, but I have to sing it. I have to. I would have begged him, I would have done anything to record it. And the next morning, my phone rang, and it was Cameron McIntosh on the phone. And he said to me, "We've got a bit of a problem down here. One of the actors has had a bit of an accident and is not going to make it to be able to play this role because we open in 4 days or something." It was like, I think it was about 4 or 5 days prior to the first preview performance. And would I go down and have a chat with Trevor and Andrew and him and Gilly Lynn to discuss the possibility of taking over the role? And I said, well, I don't know, what's it involve? And he said, well, it's not a major role. He said, it's not like Evita. You don't have, he said, there's only one song, basically. You've got one song. And I said, oh, right. I said, oh, it wouldn't be called Memory by any chance, would it? And he said, yeah, that's it. That's the song. That's the only song, though. I said, oh, right. But anyway, that is how I came to play, and that's how I first heard the song. And of course, it hadn't got a full lyric the first time I heard it either. The melody was intact, but there was not a full lyric. There were lots of different versions of lyrics coming from different writers. And so for the first 10 previews, prior to opening night, I was singing bits and bobs of different lyrics every night. It drove me mad. I mean, it really was a feat of memory to try and remember what I was singing, which I thought was ironic considering the song was called Memory. And I clearly was seeming like I hadn't got one, because it was quite a trial to remember. But in the end...
Well, thank you for remembering. Thank you for remembering.
Yeah, no, I remembered in the end because it was Trevor Nunn's lyric that in the end was the one that was passed, and that was the one that we stuck with because he had taken lots of lines from the original T.S. Eliot poem Rhapsody on a Windy Night, and so a lot of those lines like midnight and the lamp lights are sputtering and things like that, they are the original lines from the poem. And he cleverly, deftly kind of wrote his own lyric around those original lines. So it sort of sounds like it is T.S. Eliot, although it isn't in its entirety.
Well, we can't thank you enough for not only giving us one of the most incredible Grizabellas ever, but also working with Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber on so many of his wonderful shows. You know, not only was there Cats for all the people that are watching this, Elaine also did Evita,
Yeah.
which is just the way that you sing Rainbow High is just it's everything. It makes me just every goosebump that I have goes
Well, there's
crazy.
always something very exciting about being the first, you know, being the creator of something, because, you know, it's a blank canvas. You haven't got anything to compare it with, and you can just go for it, hook, line, and sinker. And because it is, you know, it's a creation. You're just coming up with it as you work on it. And that's what was so exciting, really, with Cats particularly as well, because you've got that huge climactic, operatic big note when she gets to touch me. You know, it's so huge. And when you consider that the rest of the song, as I say, is about reflection and loneliness and loss and remembering her glory days, her glamorous days of the past, and remembering that she was beautiful once, and all of those wonderful images. And then when it comes to that big note, you know, everything is just let out. It's like a cry for help, really. It's sort of like well, it's an emotional appeal about loneliness. Touch me, you know. And so it's still something that every time I sing it, I never tire of singing it either. You would imagine, wouldn't you, after I don't know how many times I will have sung that song now over the years, since 1981, thousands, I should think. I never tire of it. It's just because I think it is of operatic proportions. It's a passionate song to be able to invest yourself in.
Absolutely. And not only are they going to see the 1998 production that was filmed when we're watching it on The Shows Must Go On, but you also were able to sing it for Sir Andrew's 50th birthday at the Royal Albert Hall production.
Yeah, that was on recently, I think.
Yeah, that was on 2 weeks ago. And I literally, my jaw was slacked onto the ground when I was watching that, Elaine. It's truly life-changing. So thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah. It was pretty pressurized that night, I remember. That dress I was wearing hadn't arrived from the costumier. Oh my gosh, and I was like, where's the dress? So the adrenaline rush that I'd had prior to that performance was pretty something. And I think that may have just added an extra special something, I don't know.
Hey, everybody, look who I have here, the one and only Miss Betty Buckley. How are you today?
Good, Brian. It's good to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here today and for, helping us out with The Shows Must Go On. Right now with all of the COVID-19 emergency relief funds, having you a part of this is just incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
It is so fun that we are going to be watching the 1998 version of Cats, but let's talk about what really matters at this moment. What was it like to originate the role on Broadway? Because it is such an iconic piece and, one of the most iconic songs of all time ever written by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. What was your experience like?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was such a gift. I'd been doing a TV show called 8 is Enough for 4 years. And I'd been traveling back to New York every 6 weeks for a voice lesson. And the producers of the show thought I was crazy. I remember one day this producer caught me as I was driving out of my parking space at Burbank Studios in my Bundy Rent-A-Wreck. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to New York for my voice lesson. And he's like, you're crazy. He said, you've got such delusions of grandeur. You'll be lucky if you play American Mothers on television for the rest of your life. And I was like, whoa. And I said, so we'll see, Greg, we'll see. And so my wonderful teacher, Paul Gavert, all I ever wanted to do was really be in the musical theater and sing on Broadway. And I'd been studying with him for 13 years so we had finished 8 is Enough. And that following fall, I shot the film Tender Mercies with Robert Duvall, the Horton Foote screenplay. And that didn't come out until after Cats opened, and then I got Cats. And it was an incredible blessing to work with Andrew Lloyd Webber and Trevor Nunn, who's one of the greatest directors in the world, and Gillian Lynn, who I had admired since I was a teenager. She was this iconic choreographer that choreographed some of David Merrick's early hits. And so I was just, gobsmacked to be a part of the company, and learning to play Grizabella was really a challenge because the job assignment was stop the show. And I had stopped shows before, but I didn't know why. And so learning how to do that with intention to bring an audience to their feet and, cheering was the inspiration of this wonderful voice teacher, Paul Gabbert. And this quest I went on, I was a meditator, and my meditation sent me out into the streets of New York to follow homeless women. And I started understanding that everyone's eyes were the same as mine. And this sentence kept coming to me in my meditations: there, but for the grace of God, go I. There, but for the grace of God, go I. And through a series of remarkable encounters with some really beautiful homeless women, living on the streets of New York, I found my inspiration. And fortunately, it kind of all came together right before we had our official opening night. So that was a blessing too. And because all during previews, I wasn't stopping the show, and they knew that that could happen because Elaine Paige had stopped the show in London. So finally, my interpretation all coalesced, and I'll never forget that moment. I finished singing Memory, and there was this kind of stunned silence, and then everybody went crazy. So that was a remarkable journey, and I felt like getting to do Cats was like part of my master's thesis. Tender Mercies was one part of my master's thesis. Having studied film acting for a number of years and acting with Stella Adler, taking her script analysis classes, and being in the practicum situation of acting on film on 8 is Enough, doing 29 episodes a year, I became a better actress over that time period. And then I got to do that great film. And then Cats, I came through the doorway of my potential as a dramatic singing actress in the musical theater. So both of those projects were a huge blessing in my life.
When you heard your name called at the Tony Awards, what was the first thing that went to your mind?
Basically relief, because we were nominated for several, I forget now how many, something like 9 or 8 or 9, maybe more Tony Awards. And the producers of the show kept telling me that Bernie Jacobs and Jerry Schoenfeld of the Schubert organization kept saying, you're going to win, you're going to get this. And I was like, oh, what if I don't? I don't want to embarrass the team. So yeah, when they called my name, I was like, oh, thank God I didn't embarrass everybody, because we won so many that night. It was almost like a slam dunk, So then I got up there and I wore a short sequined cocktail dress, and I was really worried that my hose were going to be run by the time I got up on the stage. And then I was like heading for the stage, and I was like, there's stairs, don't fall down the stairs. And then, I'm standing on stage and the lights are blinking, like, hurry, you have like 30 seconds or something. It was really extraordinary. But yeah, I was hugely grateful and appreciative and relieved.
And I know that, there are so many generations of actors and actresses that look up to not only that role, but, every role that you play because of the heart and all the matter that you put into it.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. What is a piece of advice that you would share with someone that is going to be playing the role of Grizabella in the future, or hopes to have the opportunity and the luck to play with such an iconic role?
Well, what I learned was, Trevor Nunn and Gillian, and the choreography, basically, I didn't really fully realize because how brief the role is. It's 13 minutes long, basically from start to finish of the evening. I didn't realize that until I went to see Cats in London for the 8th anniversary celebration. They flew me to London to sing Memory at the curtain call. which was a huge honor. And so I was waiting for Grizabella. I was like, where is she? Where is she? And then she'd appear and then she'd disappear. But Trevor Nunn told me to stay in the wings and constantly be watching everything, because I wanted to be a part of the Jellicle Ball and all, be a part of the community of the cats. And so to me, I was on stage the whole time, but then I discovered seeing the play that I wasn't. It was really funny. But in the various versions I've seen, Grizabella is directed and choreographed to kind of drag herself around the stage in this kind of perpetual state of self-pity. And I don't ascribe to that, because I saw these women on the streets of New York, and I knew that Grizabella, she's basically in the T.S. Eliot poetry, she's a 4-line fragment of poetry. And it was then Trevor's idea to make her the heart of the show. That's the focal point of why all the cats come together to do their various songs, the T.S. Eliot poems, about why they should be chosen for the journey to the Heaviside Layer. And Grizabella, it's metaphorically or symbolically represents everything the society of cats, i.e. the culture of human beings, fear most, which is the loss of their prowess, the loss of their beauty. She's, heading towards the end of her life. And she's lived, according to Trevor, she was the Marilyn Monroe of cats and lived life to great excess. And now that she no longer has her beauty or her prowess, and her powers are diminished, the other cats don't want anything to do with her, because she represents something that they fear. I followed these women around the streets of New York. I saw their dignity, and I had these encounters with them that was like, I know that you know that I know that you know, but we don't have time to talk about that now, so maybe another time. And I just saw them despite their circumstance. And a couple of them looked exactly like Grizabella, hair the same color, white pasty makeup with smeared lipstick. And just, I just saw that there was still this intact human dignity and a sense of oneness in despite their circumstance. So when I brought that sensibility to the part, it was funny, because it wasn't working, and I was literally doing everything that I'd been choreographed to do, and literally doing everything I'd been directed to do. In the end, when I began to understand from the impressions that I experienced by following these wonderful people on the streets, this sense of there, but for the grace of God go I, and human dignity became my raison d'etre. And so I was doing the same thing, but with a sense of grace to it, with a sense of compassion for the other. Like, yes, I'd like to belong, but okay, if you don't have time for that, that's fine. Well, maybe there'll be another time. And that turned it around for me and helped me find my connection with the audience in terms of my interpretation of Grizabella. And I like that sense better than the self-pity that I've often witnessed in the part. And I don't mean to say that critically, because I've heard it sung beautifully by several ladies, but I think it's important to remember that dignity.
Absolutely. Brian, as you can see, I have another special guest here, Miss Jessica Hendy. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I am hanging in there just like everybody else.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to have you here, a part of the Shows Must Go On with the Cats Watch. So thank you so much, Jessica, for being here.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and I'm so happy to be a part of this. I love cats.
To the audience, there is some really interesting trivia that Jess just told me about her not only being the role of Grizabella, but kind of her, what would we call it, your tenure with playing the role, playing with the track?
My 9 lives.
Your 9 lives. I love it. I love it. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what makes the role of Grizabella so special and unique for you and you only?
Okay, that's a great question, and I'm really excited to share. I started out doing the 4th national tour of Cats, and I did about a year on that show, and then I got back to New York, and I got a call out of the blue asking if I could come to Broadway. in Cats. So I made my Broadway debut at the Winter Garden Theater as Grizabella. And it was the biggest dream come true. Memory was the first song I ever learned how to play on the piano. So to make my Broadway debut as Grizabella was unreal, especially in an Andrew Lloyd Webber show. I just love Andrew Lloyd Webber so much. And then years and years and years, lifetime later, they are reviving Cats. And I was once again cast in the cast of Cats. So I am the only person on this planet that has done national tour, the Broadway production at the Winter Garden Theater, and the revival at the Neil Simon Theater. And it is an honor that I love to hold.
And
But,
also such an iconic role that you were able to do in 3 different variations of.
yeah, I mean, I was in my 20s when I was in the Winter Garden Theater, and now I'm in my 40s. And, you know, as an actress, to revisit a role that you did when I was so young, I had 20 years of life experience to bring back to Grizabella. And so it was like getting together with an old friend, but having so much more wisdom and stuff to mine in my own life to bring to the character. It was great.
How did you, I mean, I don't want to say it now because currently Cats is not on Broadway, but
Yeah.
how did you make the role specific to you? What did you do to really make Grizabella stand out when you were playing a role that was separate from anyone else playing the track?
Well, to me, it was very important not to play Grizabella as someone who was chosen and to come at the role as a victim. To me, the importance of the character was her acceptance of herself, and then what happens after she accepts herself. And that act for me of forgiveness of myself had nothing to do with the rest of the Cats. So I had already chosen myself, and that when old Deuteronomy chooses me and the Cats accept me back into their tribe, was basically the icing on the cake, because it was already done for me in a strong, powerful way, because I faced my life and I accepted everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly that got me to that moment. And I was like, okay, and then I get to belt really high.
In like the 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 13 o'clock, every o'clock number that is in that show, you know.
Yeah. Thank
To sing
you,
that
Elaine,
song.
Paige, and Betty Buckley taught me how to belt. Grew up listening to them.
I think they taught most children of the late 70s and 80s how to belt and, you know, really sing it out. So what was it like to sing that song every single night for an audience that, I mean, you could hear a pin drop during that song in every production I've sat through and watched?
Yeah, it was really, I never ever took it for granted, because the role that was created by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Trevor Nunn and Gillian Lynn, the whole team way back in London, is one of the most powerful, iconic roles in musical theater history. And every time I walked out for that final moment, the weight of that I carried with me subconsciously, because it's such a gift and there is such an importance and responsibility. And I don't want to sound too frou-frou about it, because the bottom line is, like, it was the most fun to do every single time. Every single time, it's so much fun. And to just have that moment, a lot of people come to see Cats for that song, because it is just an iconic song. They are pleasantly surprised that they get a whole nother great trunk of songs to go with it, that they leave and they love all the songs too. I mean, not everyone does, but I mean, that song Memory is, I mean, it's epic. And so to be able to give that song to a room full of people and, help them have a wonderful night of theater, a catharsis it's just, it feels so good. I love it. It's so
Absolutely.
fun.
And I hope that people are feeling the catharsis this weekend, as they watch the Cats film on Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Shows Must Go On, because it's truly an honor to be speaking with you and the other Grizabellas, because we're raising money for the COVID-19 emergency relief funds worldwide. Jess, it's such an honor to have you here. I have one final question before we have to wrap up. What was it like to ride the tire every single night? Because I know that it is the dream.
Wait, you were trotting out. What was it like to what?
Oh no, I was going like a robot.
Yeah. What was it like to?
What was it like to ride up on the tire every single night?
It was a little scary, but it also, to me, to ride up and to see the cats underneath, like celebrating the choice. And then as I got a little higher off the stage, I was able to see the audience, not faces really, but just the people. And it just felt so communal and so, it's otherworldly. And in the revival, you lift up and you fly to the heavens, and then they bring you down. It's just it's so fun. It's so fun.
It's the joys of theater, right? And the magic.
Yeah, it is. And can I just say two things?
Yeah.
The first thing is, when our first day of rehearsal for the revival, everyone was there, and Andrew Lloyd Webber was there, of course, and then Elaine Paige walked in, and I got tears in my eyes because she is Grizabella, and it was just so cool that she was at our first rehearsal. Then during the revival, there was an anniversary show where they invited all the alumni who ever did Cats to the show. So the house was filled with cats, and Betty Buckley was there. So I got to sing and do the role for Betty Buckley, and then I got to meet her after, and that was truly, absolutely a full circle dream come true moment for me, because both Elaine and Betty, I have the utmost respect for both of them, and to have shared a role that they've played is just, it's a dream come true to me. And I just wanted to share those two little tidbits, because they just really have helped me shape my career in a way.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am bringing you another incredible Grizabella. This is Carrie Renee Fuller. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm so good. How are you?
I am doing great now that I get to see your face. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
For those of you that don't know Carrie is what I call a quadruple threat. She's not only an incredible actress, singer, and dancer, but when you put them all combined and you see it all on the stage at one point, that's the fourth. And that's really what she is. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So Carrie, you got to play Grizabella in the first national tour that went out in 2018 and 2019, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you're one of the youngest Grizabellas to ever play the role.
Yes, it is. That is also true, which is an interesting aspect when you think about Griz's story, to be a younger woman playing the role.
What did it take for you to channel kind of the age of yourself versus the age that Grizabella is supposed to be in human years? Because we're talking about a cat right now, but
right.
We're talking about you at the same time.
I think the key for me was not necessarily thinking of Grizabella as being older per se. I just channeled just seeing a lot of life, being through a lot of life, going through so many things, trials, tribulations, being accepted, being outcast, and letting all of those things kind of take a toll on who Grizabella is as a feline.
Also, in the female perspective,
Yeah, absolutely.
you sang that iconic song night after night after night. What was it like to sing it in front of audiences around the United States? Because it's different when you have a Broadway house versus, these incredible theaters and opera houses and lyric houses, and it's just a different beast being on tour as it is being in a single theater, correct?
Absolutely. And it was my first tour ever. I had never toured before. So what a phenomenal role to tour with for the first time. I will never forget. It still boils up very, very amazing emotions, potent emotions whenever I think about the first time that I sang that song. I had never really led anything of this caliber before. And after, I was obviously very nervous. I was standing off stage. This is our first preview in Providence, Rhode Island. And I was like, I don't know if I could do it. I'm standing off stage getting ready for my entrance. I'm like, I don't know. I really truly don't know. But as soon as I heard my music, I just prayed to God and I stepped right on out. And as soon as I saw my cast members' faces, who, by the way, are probably the most supportive cast I've ever worked with, as soon as I saw their faces, I was like, okay, each one of them is giving me strength. It's giving me energy. And I sang the song, and I'm pretty sure I blacked out because I don't remember any part of the song that first night. And I remember holding that final pose at the end of the song and expecting applause, just normal applause. It erupted. That space erupted, and I have never felt anything like that. I was hyperventilating. I was weeping. And I went through the receiving line, and everybody on stage was crying too. It was just such an amazing feeling. And I have to say, even in some of the hardest times of being away from home and being on tour, that song, I was always so grateful and so blessed to sing that song because it is iconic. There's not another song like it.
You're following in the footsteps of Elaine Paige and Betty Buckley, Mandy Paris, some incredible voices that did it on Broadway. And they also, have done it on tour, such as Jessica Hendy that we learned, in this interview. But what does it feel like to know that you're part of like the Grizabellas?
When I think about it, it renders me speechless because these, like you said, these women are iconic in every sense of the word, not only because of Cats, but because of other work that they have done, just powerhouse females and of such great strength. And I was just like, if I can emulate even a fraction of what these women have to offer and offered, every single person that came through to see them in that production, wherever it might have been, if I can perform a fraction of, with the passion that they had, with the vigor they had, then I will have done my job. But it's a true honor when I look back at and think back about all of the Grizabellas that have graced the stages. It's an honor to be a part of that canon of women.
Being one of the youngest Grizabellas to have traversed the role in a national tour or a production that is, not just a high school production or whatnot, it's a little different. But right now I'm seeing that there are some incredible young actors and actresses in high school and college, even younger, that are able to play the role now thanks to the school licenses and whatnot. And there might be some that haven't been able to play the role yet, but it is a passion of theirs. What would you give them in terms of feedback or a little shove of love to help them to pursue the role in whatever capacity they can?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I got a lot of feedback while I was on the road, some emails, fan mail, and Instagram messages, and a lot of them were from younger kids, and they would send me covers of them singing the role, and it's truly amazing what kids these days, the emotional turmoil that they can harness, because I mean, I wouldn't want to be a kid in these days. And it takes great strength to grow up in, today's crazy world. We all know, regardless of age, we all know what it's like to feel alone or feel like we don't belong. I mean, I'm 26 years old and I still feel those things. And that's what Grizabella feels as well. So I'm probably one of the few people who believes that she doesn't have to be older, that high school kids can truly play this role with, panache, whatever. Like, I believe that it is a very timeless character. And I mean, what I always tell kids that are pursuing this industry is to don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to Elaine Paige. Don't compare yourself to Mamie Paris. Don't compare yourself to Betty Buckley, Jessica Hindi. Like, don't compare yourself, because that will truly steal all of the joy that you could potentially infuse into that character. And if I would have thought as much of an honor as it was to join the Grizabellas, if I would have ever thought about trying to perform like one of those women or trying to perform like Jennifer Hudson in the film, I wouldn't have been able to offer Grizabella everything that I could. And that doesn't just go for Cats. That doesn't just go for Grizz. That goes for life. That success is not linear. No career looks the same. And to really just forge your own path and offer every single role, every single audition, what only you can offer, because you're unique and special.
You know what? You are the cat's meow. I've been waiting to say that for quite some time, everybody.
I love it. I've never, over a year on tour and I still do not get sick of cat puns. Never.
Well, they're perfect.
They are.
This is where we are today, folks. This is what's happening. So, your participation and your help today and sharing your incredible stories, Betty, has been absolutely, it's been a dream come true for myself. I know for everyone that's going to see this. So thank you so much.
Brian. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, this is definitely a dream come true talking with you as well. So
you're so sweet.
For the audience, you don't even know, Jess and I have known each other for quite some time, but this is the most we've ever spoken about cats, because it's just something that we never share or talk about when we're together. So this is really awesome.
Other things.
Totally.
Everybody watch the show. Give to the COVID Relief Fund. I'll be watching. I'll
Absolutely.
find cat ears.
Everyone remember, it's hashtag the shows must go on and hashtag CATSBuzz. So we're going to hit play together to watch this all together. Okay, so I need you to help me with a 5 countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. As well. So I want to thank our special guest, Elaine Paige, for spending some time with us today, as well as the teams at Really Useful Group, Cameron McIntosh, and Ashley and Alina at Think Jam. Everyone, I want you to remember that we are doing these interviews not only for fun, but also for COVID-19 emergency relief. You can click below to find information on Acting for Others, Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, the Actors Benevolent Fund of Australia, as well as for NHS charities with a COVID-19 appeal. And separately, I want to give thanks to Elaine for her work with the Children's Trust for Brain Injuries, and the link is below as well if you want to find out for more information and donate. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a joy.
Do you want to help me with a countdown for our watch party?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We're going to count from 5 to 1 together, and then we'll begin, and everyone's going to click play at that time, okay? 5,
4,
3,
2, 1. Hit that button. It's showtime.